Good day. Just want to touch base with everybody on South Africa. It's been quite a while since I sent out my last South African episode on the future of South Africa. I think it was episode 15. But I notice South Africa, my episode 1, it's still getting around 50, 60 hits a month on YouTube, even now, in terms of when that went out, approximately 5 months ago now. So it's got well over 2,500 hits, not a lot, but for myself, in terms of who's just started up this YouTube channel, it's not bad, it's pretty good. I want to just take this time to bring to the attention of people out there in the world where things are sitting in South Africa at the moment, and how has the situation progressed or digressed, whichever way you want to, however you want to see this, and really spark some reality in terms of things here. Before I do that, before I have a discussion about that, let me first share this video with you. It was sent to me by a friend of mine in South Africa. His name is Henny Delport, who lives in Alberton, just on the outskirts of Johannesburg. And it's a video that's been put together, a very articulating presentation by a South African white farmer who talks about the plight of the white South African in South Africa today. Now, I know we can get into conflicting discussions about South Africa and who's right and who's wrong, and I've had all these discussions before. I don't want to just keep on repeating myself. I think it's important to know where we are now today in South Africa, what the ANC government are currently trying to establish. And you know, I'm not coming from a far right side, and I'm certainly not on the far left side either. I'm not a liberal. What I am trying to look at is what is right, what is really right for South Africa and for the people of South Africa as a whole, and what's best for South Africa as a whole and its people as a whole, not black or white. It sort of concerns me when I have a lot of my white colleagues who live in South Africa currently in places like Cape Town, or live over here, who sort of say, don't worry about what's being said in videos like what I'm going to show you now. That's not important. The government is doing all the right things. Well, I'd like to believe that. But there are concerns in terms of what I have, the way the South African government is working. And look, I know Cyril Ramaphosa. I have met Cyril Ramaphosa many years ago, and I'm sure his intents are, I'd like to think anyway, they are for the good of the country as a whole, and not just for winning votes in the next election. But like all politicians all over the world, as I've said before, they tend to have different agendas at different times in their life, in their life cycles, and I've sort of put myself in a position, put people in a position over here in the UK, for example, if they're sitting there in their homes that they've owned for the last 30, 40 years, which they've worked hard for, they've paid their mortgages, they're at the point now where they're about to retire and they've got their home fully paid for, and now the government comes and knocks on their door and says, excuse me, we now have to give this home, we have to take this home away, we're taking it away from you, it's going to be now shared out among all people in the country, even those who don't have a home, or haven't saved for a home, or haven't done sufficient work for a home. I mean, how would I accept that? No, of course I wouldn't. Would anybody accept it? No, of course they wouldn't. I wouldn't expect them to. But that's what is happening in South Africa at the moment. This whole thing about land ownership and where land should be, in whose hands it should be, and why it's different. Well, you know, the UK. Let me say to you, the land owned by the UK it's owned by a minority of people. The UK is not shared among people equally. Land ownership in the UK is dominated by few. You know, some some of them are old landowners that go back centuries. They may have changed it to a corporation, but they are still the landowners. So if I said to the Duke of Westminster, "Would you like your land to be handled in the same way as it's going on in South Africa?" I'm sure he'd say no. He wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't. The Duke of Westminster wouldn't. The Earl, the Marquis of Northampton wouldn't. But neither would any people who've come into this country and bought huge chunks of land, like the South Bank, which is now owned by a Kuwaiti billionaire. If I said to him, you know, you'll now have to give this land back to the people without any money being given back to you, he wouldn't like it either, and I can understand that. But land is not owned by majority of the people in the UK either. You know, they may have a small little chunk of land, what they've got a house on, but that's it. In some cases, majority of land is owned by few, even in the West. It's what the land does for the people as a whole which is important, and how land creates wealth for the country as a whole, and how it makes the country an economical, balanced place to live for all people. You know, so there's always going to be people who have more than other people in society, in my view, these days, because we know the communist state does not work. But you know, I hear all these recent stories about land now being identified, farms now being taken over, no compensation, farms being turned into mining rights for the Chinese, all these scaremongering stories. Well, I think it's got to stop. Now, I know the governments of the EU and the British government and the United States have shot some warning signs across Cyril Ramaphosa and said, you know, this must not happen. But I don't think that's going to be enough, personally. I can see this progressing worse. But people with their heads in the clouds who say, oh, don't worry, guys, it's not going to happen. I think I've got to be realistic here and think about this carefully. And I'm thinking more the white-skinned liberals at the moment than anything else. You know, people who, whether they live in South Africa now, in Cape Town, or in certain suburbs away from all this going on, or whether they live in other countries now, in the UK or Australia, and saying, yeah, you know, who have come to terms and saying, yeah, this is the right thing, the black people should now appropriately take it this way. Well, I don't think they should. No, I think there has to be a process of change, and we have to kill poverty in South Africa and get people into working situations with a good health service and good education. Yes, absolutely. But I don't think it's a question of kick all the whites out and take away all their land, and that's not the right approach to do this. That's the wrong approach. And so to interfere, I'm not interfering, I'm just making a point. South Africa, I went to South Africa from the UK in early 1980 with a white skin. So I was privileged in South Africa because I had a white skin. Now, if I went to South Africa with a black skin, I wouldn't have got in. And all those people that I know around the world who have white skins, who live in other parts of the world, also benefited from living in South Africa and being part of South Africa because they had a white skin. Now, whether we like it or not, with all of us that had white skins that lived in South Africa or formed a close relationship with South Africa, formed a better life for ourselves at that particular point in time, because we could. Far easier than what a black person could at that particular point in time. So, yes, there has to be some shift. And apartheid, we put an end to apartheid well over 20 years ago now. And the process of fixing the country economically and taking people out of poverty is the next step. As Nelson Mandela said, South Africa will not be ruled where people of any colour or race feel uncomfortable or in the minority again, ever. You know, there's got to be no fear. And his words, and I can pull them out and show them if anyone wants me to, but that's all seems to be forgotten now. And I just want to make people aware it's not going to go away, this situation in South Africa. There's going to be serious, it's not going to wake up one day and everything's going to be okay. No, I don't think it is. Because there are people in South Africa who can't leave the country, who can't go in it, not because they don't want to, but because they haven't got the means to do it. They haven't got the means to feed their families today and tomorrow, never mind about buy themselves a new life in another country. They can't do that. They haven't got the capability of doing that. Those that have the capability have done it. And you've lost them. They are the brains of the country that have left the country in many cases. So the ones that are left are the ones that either can't move or will not move because they are prepared to stand and fight for their rights. And that's it. Have a look at this video.
Good morning, people. So here we are. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Tiaan Tron. I'm a white South African farmer. And I've been asked by many people from all over the world to make this video in English, where I am going to try to highlight the current situation, the political situation in South Africa, specifically with relation to the white minority in South Africa. And I want to ask you to, if possible, share this video all over this globe. And I'm going to try and keep it short and simple. There's a political reality busy playing himself out in this beautiful country of ours. The ruling ANC government has indicated that it plans to change the Constitution of South Africa, specifically Chapter 25 of the Constitution, which deals with private property rights, to change that chapter in order to make it possible for them to expropriate property without compensation, and to deal it with, as the president of the ANC, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as the president of the country, to share it with, as he states it, our people. So what he basically is saying is we want to expropriate property without compensation as the government of South Africa, to give it back to our people. Now we all know by now who he sees as his people. The message is clear. This is not a matter of taking from the rich and share it with the poor, that typical Robin Hood mentality. This is a matter of taking from the white to give it to the black. Blatant, hardcore racism. That is what this is all about. We know by now what the ultimate result of this policy is going to mean for all the people of South Africa, not only the whites. There are many examples north from our borders where the governments of Southern African states has opted to take this political discourse with catastrophic results. But there's also a human side to this whole debate. As I've mentioned earlier, I am a white South African farmer, part of the Afrikaner people, Boer Afrikaner people. I've got a long history in this country. My forefathers contributed their lives towards building this country to what you see today. Let me start with saying thank you. Thank you to all those countries and all those people, all over the globe who have opened their arms and their hearts and their doors to many of my people, the white man of South Africa, white men and women and children, accommodating them, giving them opportunities to start all over again. I get reports from all over the globe of former South Africans who is doing well. They are enjoying their lives and they are happy families. Their children are happy children. And I want to thank those countries. I want to thank those people. It could have been much different. Thank you for that. We do appreciate it. Thank you for what you are doing for my people. But I want to ask you, not only to keep in mind those white South Africans who are arriving at your shores, but also to remember that here are millions of white South Africans left who don't have the option of immigration. Immigration for them is just no solution. They are in no position whatsoever to even consider it. I must remind you of thousands of white South Africans who don't know where their daily bread is going to come from today. They don't know how they're going to feed their children today. Buying a plane ticket, immigrating, starting a new life all over in a new country is just no option for them. They are here and they are stuck. But there's also a lot of other reasons why they don't opt to immigrate. You must remember that South Africa is our country. And this African soil has been drenched with our blood and the sweat of our forefathers. We don't want to immigrate. We see themselves and ourselves as South Africans. We see our future in South Africa. We see the future of our children and the generations to come under the South African sun. We want to see this whole thing unfolding to such an extent that it works for us. And through this video, I've told you about the chaos and anarchy that is awaiting this country and its people. We are standing at the brink of chaos and anarchy. How are we going to change it? I can assure you that the white South African minority, although we are a minority, we're still talking about 3 to 4 million people. We are organizing ourselves and we are doing everything in our power to empower ourselves, and we are doing everything that we can to empower ourselves to fight this battle from within. But we need the help of the international community. We need your help. Ordinary civilians, ordinary people living in different countries all over the world who are watching this video today. We've informed the governments of many countries out there in the international community. They know by now what's going on in South Africa. But we also know that it is the responsibility of ordinary citizens to hold their different governments accountable, to apply pressure, more pressure, on this ANC government, to try and change this political discourse, to try and step up and say, listen chaps, there's such a thing as right and wrong. We've seen the international community in the past, in history, taking up arms against what is wrong and changing it for the good. And as I'm standing here today, I'm asking you, we've reached a point in South Africa where the international community must join hands with us as the victims of savagery and barbarism and maladministration, to join hands with us, to support us in this effort to change this bad for good. I would like to believe that there is something left in humanity somewhere deep down in your hearts, you do have something left which will encourage you to fight this fight with me and my people. I don't know how it will end. All indications out there today is that it will end bad. I hope we can stop it before we reach that point. I trust you for sharing this video, to making the world aware of what's going on in South Africa, and to try and change this bad to something good. Thank you and goodbye.
I think it's clear enough in that response. I think that's what's happening now. That's from a position of concern, from a white South African Boer farmer. Yes. Now that's not going to be the same opinion. I accept that from a black, impoverished person living in the middle of Soweto or Alexandria or wherever. I accept that. But a leader, a politician with common sense has now got to look at this situation and say, how do we bring our communities together to work together to help each other and make this country a better place? The world has got to help South Africa in sorting this problem out. The world has got to, because the world have, certain key countries in the world, like my own, have got certain responsibility to South Africa to help it through this process. But standing back and just making a few warning sounds is not enough here, because there's going to be significant damage done here to people, to humanity, if we don't get this sorted out quickly now. It's getting to a stage where the government are skirting around it. The South African government are skirting around it. They're balancing votes with what to say and what to do next, which is what politicians do. But the human race has got to step in here. The human heart has got to come in here and put this right. Okay, talk to you again soon. Bye bye.